Hello, guys. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit on 11 Cities Motivation Monday. How I mentally and physically prepare for paddling is based on my preparation. So I generally rely on a lot of my years of experience when I've been paddling for a long time. So when I'm going into a race, I know what I've been able to do in the past, which leads me to my opportunities. So what I can do when I am on race day. Mentally, you've really got to be focusing on the things that you can control. So focusing on, is my board going to be there? Do I have the right paddle? Am I wearing the right clothes? Is my nutrition right? Like, do I have enough water? Do I have enough electrolytes? Am I taking the right supplements? And then food-wise, making sure that I'm eating well the day before and making sure I'm hydrating the day before. And that sort of really helps me with my physical preparation. Also with your warm-up, making sure you're getting out in the water. I usually get out there about 20 minutes before, do a 10-minute warm-up, and then make sure that I'm on that start line before the gun goes off. You don't want to be one of those people who miss the start and you mess it up, and your whole race can sort of be changed in that instant. So making sure you're on the start line ahead of time, and just making sure you're around your competitors. That sort of gets me physically and mentally prepared, and just relying on my preparation, making sure that I've done the right amount of training leading into it, whether I have a 3-month block at the start of the season or whether I've got more structured, specific training leading into the certain event that I'm racing in. Obviously, when I'm traveling so much, I can't necessarily get the amount of training in that I would like, so I have to rely on my previous experiences. I use my races as my hardest training for the week, and then most of the time when I'm on the road, I'm generally recovering. So yeah, it's all in your preparation. So whether that's mentally, physically, or with nutrition, you've always got to be really, really well prepared. Well, my favorite exercise for paddling is going paddling. Surprise, surprise. But it's all about making sure that we're doing the right paddling for the right event that we're doing. So if we're doing a shorter race, making sure we're doing the more 15 to minute intervals, backing up with our endurance sessions, or if we're doing something like 11 City Tour, making sure we're getting those Ks in, making sure we're preparing for those different legs on the different days. I haven't done 11 City Tour, but I've done a few different endurance races. You've got to make sure, the biggest thing is making sure you have the kilometers in the bank. So making sure you're doing a lot of loading and unloading, coming through your training program, whether you do that 3 weeks on, 1 week off, or you've really got to make sure you've got the kilometers, but then you've got to make sure that you're really prepared well for the different conditions that you may face in an event like that, because it's not all going to be flat and easy. You might have hard currents, you might have cold weather, you might have wind, you might have all those different elements. So making sure that in your training, you're trying to replicate those occasions. That is really, really important. But outside of paddling, maybe we could think about, I really like to go to the gym and making sure that I'm finding those imbalances and weaknesses and really working on those to make sure that they turn into my strengths. That could be something like me. I have an imbalance between my hips, so my left hip is actually a lot stronger than my right hip, so I have to really make sure that I'm doing that extra session or that extra set on my right leg to make sure that I'm really, really strong all round, and my weaknesses are, instead of being down here, are actually here and then closer to my strengths. I don't have a special diet. I make sure that I'm eating well and making conscious choices each day. But there's no specific diet, and I've learned to do that over the past few years when I've been on the road traveling a lot. It's almost impossible to have a particular diet, and if I wake up and I can't eat what I've planned to have, it makes your race really, really hard. So I have a carb based meal generally the night before and the morning before with protein and good fats, and that's where I get my strength from. And I make sure that I'm having the right supplements with me when I'm racing, so that I can extend my performance to my best of my ability. But no, I do not have a specific diet because it's just impossible with the amount of travel I do. And I think it's really important that we don't focus too hard, and we have to have, 2 bits of bread, 2 eggs, 1 avocado, 1 bit of protein. Like, you got to make sure that you are prepared for all scenarios, because you might get to something like the 11 City on day 3 and you can't get that food, and then all of a sudden you get inside your mind and you can't prepare properly and you can't perform properly because you're actually focusing way too hard on the little things, and you should be focusing on the things that you can control. When preparing for long races, I make slight changes to my training plan. So it goes from, say, if I'm racing APP or if I'm doing the Euro Tour races, the APP's got like a sprint component where I've got a lot of turns and a speed, which I'm not going to be able to ever probably perform as well as some of the specialist sprinters. So I do enough in that to make myself good enough for that overall, but then I really focus in on my 10K time trials and making sure that I'm doing those longer intervals, like 4 to 6 minutes, making sure I've got the kilometers on the water. But obviously when you're moving into ultra long distance, like something like 11 cities or Molokai, you've got to make sure that you're getting those Ks in each week. So pushing 100, maybe sometimes 150 kilometers a week, combining between SUP, surf ski, running. That's how I do it anyway. Probably 60% on the SUP, 20% on the ski, and then 20% in running. Just making sure that I'm mixing it up, because I find if I focus too hard on one sport, it's really hard for me to get up, and that's when I start to cause myself injuries. So really just making sure I'm really working that endurance system all the time, doing like really long 2-hour sessions maybe on Wednesday and then a longer one on Saturday, and then just maintaining my general training program in between, because when you're training for a endurance event, you can't just train slowly. You can't just go out and do 15, 20 kilometer paddles all the time, because when you get to that race, you're going to have to up your level. You're going to have to be up like level 4, which is like 90% most of the race. And if you just paddle around at 70, 80% throughout your training plan, you're actually not going to be able to perform to the best of your ability, because you're actually limiting yourself massively when you're getting into that race. So making sure that we're doing enough load and just working with a good trainer and a good coach. If you want to get a good coach, I know a really good one with Booth Training. So if you want to contact me, just let me know. I've trained a few guys through the 11 cities now, and they've had some good successes. So yeah, it's all about having accountability to your training and not trying to cram train with long distance races. If you don't do the work, you found out very, very quickly. If I was to give one stroke tip, I would make sure that people are paddling at the front of their stroke. So making sure you're getting out in front, driving down with the paddle, and then really pulling hard in that first section of the stroke. Making sure you're not pulling back past your feet. If you're pulling back past your feet, it's not very efficient, and you're not actually pulling yourself forward anymore. You're actually just pushing water up, which is just generating extra energy that you don't need to use. In stand-up, it's all about an efficient stroke. You've got to make sure that you're efficient over a long period of time, and you've got to make sure that when you're doing that stroke, that you can do it for 4 hours a day or whatever it is, especially on something like the 11 cities. Thanks everyone for listening to my tips today, and hope you got some motivation from it. If you want to find out anything else about me, you can check out my website, www.michael-booth.com.au. I have a whole bunch of training stuff on there, and if you want to check me out on Instagram, it's _Michael Booth, or on Facebook, it's just Michael Booth. Thanks.